Today, there are over 2 million cases of the coronavirus pandemic worldwide. Just in the US alone, there's over 500,000 cases, and the virus has claimed over 100,000 lives worldwide. The US economy has come to an instantaneous halt, and the life that we once knew and loved is virtually gone. But the main question is, how and why did this start? Today, I'll be investigating the COVID-19 pandemic. All my sources go out to Vox Atlas, the New York Times, and the Center of Disease Control. Today, I will be showing you how the Chinese wet market started the virus, how it spread across the world at an alarming rate, and how it is affecting the life that we once knew. It all started in 1970 when the Chinese government passed the Wildlife Protection Act. This law allowed the farming and trade of all wildlife proceeding in China. So now a market of exotic wildlife are being imported into China, into these farms, and then sold into the wet markets for profit. They're being sold into the mainland cities of China, where they're being used for human consumption. Now this is where the problem starts, because these exotic species are not normally together in such a confined space. These markets are very unsanitary, and this is normally how viruses start. The viruses that make us ill as humans normally come from animals, like HIV/AIDS came from chimpanzees, and the deadly Ebola virus most likely came from bats. And in this case, it came from a bat to a pangolin to a human, and that's exactly what happened. On December 31st, the Chinese officials admitted that they had a health crisis. Patients were starting to develop a light cough with fever symptoms, which were eventually turning into pneumonia, and in some cases it was fatal. The Chinese officials tracked down, out of 41 patients, 27 of them came from a Wuhan wet market. The Chinese officials quickly closed down all the wet markets throughout China and banned wildlife trade. But now that we have a host for this virus, we will now see how it spread across the world at such an alarming rate. One of the Chinese government's main concern about this was the Chunyuan Spring Festival. The time preceding the Chinese New Year, millions of Chinese citizens migrate all across the major cities of China. Wuhan, the epicenter for this pandemic, happened to be right in the middle of this festival. So now we have people tracking this into the main business and tourist sectors of China, like Beijing and Shanghai. Last year alone, over 300 million citizens, tourists, were traveling in and out of China, and it also has the second largest economy in the world. The US alone gets most of their imports from China. So now that we have people traveling across the world with this virus, we can really see how it got to Europe and got to America because of how silent but deadly this virus is. The incubation period is anywhere from a day to 14 days. So you could be walking around with this virus and not even knowing that you have it, and be giving it to the people around you. That is why this virus is so uncontainable. In this graph, you can see how quickly the cases in the US rose. Right around here is mid to early February, but by the end of February into March, it had shot up from 0 to 500,000 within just a month. This virus has created fear between life and death, and has changed the life that we once knew. Just a few weeks ago, the US economy passed the largest stimulus package in the history of mankind. Over $2 trillion are to be injected into the US economy to help the struggling lower to middle class and the smaller to big businesses. Over 20 million Americans have filed for unemployment during this time of crisis, and it started to spark the fear that we may fall into another Great Depression because of this problem. One of the biggest problems about this is we don't know how much longer this virus is going to last and how much longer businesses are going to be closed. Most states are on a complete lockdown, and all non-essential businesses have been closed. As I previously mentioned, the death toll is over 100,000 globally. And the audience that this virus mainly attacks fatally are your people who have underlying health issues like heart disease, any respiratory illness, lung cancer, asthma, stuff that typically affects someone's respiratory health. It also affects your younger individuals, anywhere from infancy to 5 years old, with the developing immune systems, and then obviously your audience that are 65 and older with weakened immune systems. With every negative, there was always a positive. The environment has seen a very good growth in health ever since it started, because the industry sectors have started to close down, so we're seeing less CO2 emissions. People aren't driving out, so the car emissions have reduced significantly. Same thing as airplane CO2 emissions. So in conclusion, the Chinese wet market started this virus, and it traveled across the world at an alarming rate. It has affected the life that we once knew and loved. I hope that what we can take from this is to never take advantage of the life that we always have, and hopefully this will go back to normal soon. And hopefully that we can bounce back from this as strong as ever. Thank you.